Hello there, Star Wars fans. Today I want to go over the fourth installment in this series I'm doing, where we go over chapters of the book Clone Wars Stories of the Light and the Dark. And this week we're going to dive deep into politics of the Clone Wars, so if you're interested in that, you'll like this one. Stick around. It's an excellent audiobook I do recommend you check out. It takes crucial episodes of the Clone Wars and gives all new perspectives on events, diving deeper into each of them. But today I'll take you through a super interesting episode from Padme's point of view, which also shows us just how good Palpatine was at running the whole thing from behind the scenes. This episode was Pursuit of Peace. As we open, Padme was preparing for a Republic Senate hearing that was of the utmost importance to her and the Republic. The Senate was once again voting to pay for more Republic clone troopers to extend the war, but from Padme's point of view, this was a massive mistake. Taking money from the Republic and spending it on clones prolonged the war, as the Separatists would only do the same for droids. In turn, this money was taking away from social services that the Republic used to pay for. Electricity, food, water. People were going hungry without it, and all for a war they had no part in. When the time for the vote came, Padme was set to give a speech, and here it is for you to listen to.
So Padme put on her senator mask and stood up. "Members of the Senate," she proclaimed, "do you hear yourselves? More money, more clones, more war. Say nothing of fiscal responsibility. What about moral responsibility? Hasn't this war gone on long enough?" And there was Sam right on schedule. "Senator Amidala," he intoned, wearing a mask of indignation. "Are you suggesting that we surrender to the Separatists?" "Of course not," she said. She had to pretend it was a serious question, because somehow saying that he only cared about his own profit was against the rules. "But negotiation might be a better course of action."
Suggesting negotiations at the time was like suggesting death to many of the corrupt senators. Without war, there was no profit. Without profit, what are you doing for many of them? For others, this was all just black and white. Republic good, Separatists evil. Similar to how many of the Jedi thought, unfortunately. Padme was largely shot down in her asks for negotiations instead of clones, so she took things into her own hands. She actually traveled with Ahsoka Tano to conspire with a Separatist friend, Mina Bonteri of Onderon. Together, the two would talk of wanting to end the war, when Padme did eventually make a bold suggestion. Perhaps Mina could go to the Separatist Senate and suggest a vote for negotiations in there. Then, perhaps they could come to the Republic. Padme had tried to do it the other way around, but this now was the only option. And this was the wrench in the plans of Palpatine's grand scheme that ended up getting him involved. Once the Separatist Council did vote for peaceful negotiations with the Republic, Padme and Palpatine were alone, chatting about how this came to be. Palpatine was of course curious. Why were the Separatists approaching now? Was he to be skeptical of all this as the leader of the Republic? And ultimately, him questioning it got Padme to reveal to him that she had conspired with the Separatists and conspired with Mina Bonteri of the Separatists. Unknown to Padme, this was a vital mistake. At the next Senate hearing, everything went from great to terrible in the blink of an eye. I'll let you listen in.
So she carried her hope with her to the grand convocation chamber, all the way up to her repulsor pod. Padme drew all the excitement to her and addressed the chamber. "Given that the Separatists have put a call for negotiations on the table," she proclaimed, "the call for additional troops seems ill-timed." "Which means," Bale added, "there is no need to deregulate the banks." It was time to vote. Padme pressed her button. Nay. Then there was a distant explosion. The whole building shook, and the lights went out. Coruscant had been attacked. A power generator bombed. The Separatists were blamed. It made no sense to Padme. They'd just opened peace talks. But it was wartime, and no one cared about sense. And suddenly a giant hologram of Count Dooku appeared in the Senate chamber. Padme reflexively stiffened.
Your Republic forces have carried out a barbaric attack on our people,
He intoned.
and among the deaths was the very sponsor of the peace accord, Senator Mina Bonteri.
The news hit Padme like a slap. No, it couldn't be. There were cries around her. Other senators jeered. But Padme could barely hear them. Mina was dead.
Padme had lost. Again. The Republic was bombed at the same time that a crucial separatist senator was killed. Coruscant was largely without power, and the separatists had lost some of their members, some of their most vital members, to an attack from the Republic. Of course, this was all set up by Palpatine, who knew everything, but Dooku was the face of it all. But Padme was not one to give up easily. Peace was out of the window for now, but the Senate now wanted to spend money to create 5 million new clone troopers. This cost was essentially a death sentence for the Republic. So Padme had a new mission. Find evidence and give a speech that would deter spending this money. The money that would slowly kill the Republic people. Padme ended up speaking to her handmaiden about this, Tekla Manau, when she simply asked a question to her. "How is your family?" And Tekla gave the necessary answer that Padme needed to hear. Because of the war, Tekla's family and many others were suffering with basic needs because the Republic could no longer afford the time nor the prices to bring supplies and help for the planets they controlled. Padme would hear this, and she used it in the final plea to not buy any more clones. Hear that speech right now.
All eyes are on her. And suddenly, she is not afraid. She will speak for the people. She draws herself up, and she begins. She has no mask. She has no strategy. All she can do is speak from the heart. So she tells them about Tekla, how Tekla's district rarely has electricity and running water as a result of the war, how children there can only bathe every 2 weeks, how they have no light by which to read or study at night. The Republic has always funded these basic services, but now, there are those who would divert the money to the war, with no thought for what the people need to survive. If not for people like Tekla and her children, who are we fighting for? My people, your people, all of our people.
When she finished, the Senate agreed to avoid spending this money on the clones. She didn't stop the war, but she had certainly succeeded in avoiding unnecessary escalation. That's the story, and I love these looks into the politics of the Clone Wars, because at the end of the day, we know there's one figurehead above it all, Palpatine, and he would usually get his way, but there were small deterrences like this from Padme. It's obvious why there were so many assassination attempts on Padme. All of them, of course, failed until Anakin just said, "I'll do it myself." But either way, I love these looks into it and just how frustrating it can be, because you can't win with it being controlled by basically one person. Of course, Dooku as well, but in the end, Palpatine knows and controls all. I love stuff like this. If you enjoyed, please do leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. Please help me grow this daily Star Wars community. It's been a blast to do, and yeah, gonna keep going, so stick around, and I'll see you in the next video.